Time now is 6:44. All morning long, we've been talking about the debate over spanking of children. The subject follows the recent arrest of NFL running back Adrian Peterson. He's charged with child abuse in Texas after a spanking earlier this year left his 4-year-old son with physical marks. Peterson admits to spanking his children, but says he is not abusive. Stephen?
Thank you, Gina. We're joined now by attorney Eric Guster to talk about this case. It's one that has gripped the nation. Everyone has an opinion on this topic. First, what is your take relative to Adrian Peterson and what he's dealing with legally?
Well, what he's dealing with legally is typical because in most states, every person, such as a physician, any person in authority, physicians, teachers, daycare workers, they have responsibility to report any abuse that they notice. So that's how this case came to light.
And how is it relative to Alabama's laws? Is it similar here? What would people deal with if they were in that same situation in Alabama?
Well, the Alabama law, as far as child abuse, says that you must not cruelly beat. You can use corporal punishment, but you can't cruelly beat your child. And that's a question for a jury because oftentimes in these cases, if a person is not offered pretrial diversion, such as what Adrian Peterson received, which means they'll go to classes, they'll pay fines, and then the case will be dismissed, they may have to go to a jury trial in order to prove, well, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the person is actually guilty of it. And at least it's questionable of what the jury perceives is cruelly beating someone. And that's what the question that Adrian would have to face in that case.
Very interesting, the definition of what they think that term means.
Yes.
When it comes to leniency, if any, for first-time offenders in Alabama, is there some relative to someone who may have been convicted or accused of this in the past?
Yes, and it depends on the jurisdiction. In different jurisdictions, in different courts, you get different types of programs. For example, if it's a drug case, if drugs are involved, then the person may get different types of treatment. If a person is on a first offender, never been in trouble with the law, they may get a different type of treatment. So it really depends on what court it's in, if it's a misdemeanor. Well, child abuse is automatically a felony. Let me take that back. So with any type of court case, the county would really depend on which case they would give leniency to.
So here in Alabama, to be considered child abuse, someone has to determine that a child was cruelly beaten.
Yes, and that is what it says, and it really depends on what the jury sees, because some people say if you hit a child with a switch, that's cruelly beating. However, in the South, and what I found out, the northern states, they don't use switches. They don't even know what that term, oftentimes people didn't know what that term meant, because we've seen this story be told, people say tree branch versus switch. And that a switch is actually a southern term that northerners can't comprehend. So it's very interesting to see, for example, in Adrian Peterson's case, his case is in Texas, and it would depend on what Texans view as child abuse, because his lawyer has came out and said, this is what happens in Texas and it's normal, so he may not be prosecuted.
Very interesting. Thank you, Eric Guster, for your unique attorney insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back over to you.